Let's go somewhere, a place for you and I don't need no cares, I don't need no worries. I just want to share my feelings and my memories. Let's go somewhere, a place for you and
Okay guys, so today we'll be talking about the speaking module part 2. Now, as I've said before, I believe that the IELTS exam is all about preparation and strategy. So we'll look at a strategy for this cue card section. In part 2 of the speaking section, you will be given a cue card such as this with a given topic. You will also have a preparation time of 1 minute to prepare and write down whatever you want to talk about. You will also be given a piece of paper and pencil to write notes. Then you will have to talk about the topic for 2 minutes at a stretch. So before we begin, let's take a look at 6 steps that I have for you for this section. The first step is to use personal experiences because they are the best. But that being said, lying is okay too. If you're given a topic that you're not familiar with and you don't have a personal experience related to it, you can always make up a story and just lie about the experience as long as you're using the correct grammar and as long as you're using good vocabulary and are fluent in your speaking. The second tip is talk about the things for which you can use better description and better vocabulary. So when you're choosing the topic or when you're choosing what you're going to talk about, make sure you're talking about something which you can describe better and for which you can use better vocabulary. Focus on fluency and pronunciation. And it really helps if you record yourself and listen to yourself speak over and over again. The next tip is that you don't have to cover everything on the card. The bullets in the card are only suggestions. It's good if you try to answer the bullets, but if you're not comfortable with any, you don't need to talk elaborately on it. Expand ideas. Now this is very important for this part of the speaking test. The cue card section, which is section 2, in which you will be given a topic and you have to keep talking on the same topic for a total of 2 minutes. 2 minutes may not seem like a very long time, but when you're giving an English exam and you're thinking about making an impression in English, it's a very long time. So make sure you watch the previous video that I have up on expanding your ideas when you're speaking. And the last tip that I have for you is to follow the structure that I'm going to propose today. Practice and prepare more effectively if you're using a structure. So now let's look at the structure you can follow when speaking in part 2. On the piece of paper that you will be provided, write down 5 headings with a little space between each one. The first is introduction, past, description, opinion, and lastly, future. Now the last one is optional, so it's up to you whether you want to add it or not. If you have a difficulty remembering the headings, just remember the short form IPDOF, and you'll know what each of the letters stand for. So now let's look into what to say in each of these sections or under each headings. For the introduction, you can start by saying, I would like to talk about, or I chose this because, etc. For the second heading, past, you can start by using a linking word like anyways or nevertheless. In this section, talk about the background of the story or something that happened in the past or something that you no longer do. For example, talk about past habits. The next section is description. You can start this section by saying, "So let me tell you about this in a little more detail." Make sure you use adjectives to describe and examples. The next heading is opinion. So under this heading, you can give your own point of view or express your opinions. You can start by saying, "If you ask me," or "in my view," or "I strongly believe that," or "as far as I'm concerned," or "I'm strongly against it," or "I'm strongly in favor of it," "I'm skeptical of the idea," etc. The last heading is the The last heading is the optional heading, which is future. It's your choice whether you want to talk about this or not. This is where you can add a statement about the future. You can start by saying, "with regards to the future," and carry on. So now that we know the structure, let's take a look at an actual cue card and try to follow the structure. So this is a sample cue card. The given topic here is, describe someone in your family who you really admire. You should say what relation this person is to you, what are your first memories of this person, how often you see this person, and explain why you really admire this person. Now, if you only answer to the points given in this card, you will end up with a very short answer, such as, "The person I admire is my mother, since she took care of me as a child really well, and I see her every day. I have wonderful memories of us gardening and cooking together. I admire her because she is very caring." Now, this covers all the bullet points, but remember, you're given 2 minutes to talk about the topic, but I just read this part in 15 seconds. So it's very important that you speak for the whole 2 minutes to show your range of English to the examiner, which is why following the structure really helps. And it gives you a very long but organized answer. So let's say this is the card you're given and you can write notes on it. The first thing you'll do is write down the headings introduction, past, description, opinion, and future. And then write notes under each heading, which will help you speak when you're given the time to speak. So here I've taken short notes on what I'm going to speak about, and let's see what the sample answer is. Okay, so you start with an introduction saying, "I've got a small family with only 5 members, and all of us are very close to each other, and we love each other very much. Among them, I love my mother more than anyone else in the world. I adore my mother for her caring, loving, adorable behaviors and wit. She's the person I can share everything with, and that's the reason I worship her so much." Notice that in this introduction, you've already stated the relationship of the person you're talking about with you. That is, your mother. Moving on to the next section, the past. "Possibly she was the first human I saw when I opened my eyes in the world. A relationship with a mother is divine, and all of my childhood memories are either related to my mom or my school. I can still remember a day I was late to come back home after school, and that's because there was a ceremony at the school I did not know about. All of a sudden, I found that my mother was entering through the school gate to find me. I was so frightened that my mother would rebuke me for being late unnoticed, and she must be mad at me. But to my best surprise, when my mother saw me, she had a warm smile on her face that I'll never forget till my last breath on this earth. Then she hugged me and gave me a kiss. I felt then that I loved my mother more than me. She attended the program at the school, and afterwards we came back home together. So notice in this section, you're sharing memories with the person that you admire. Let's move on to the next section. Details. I spent 19 years or so with my father and mother, but I stay at a metropolitan city now for my education. Whenever I get a vacation, I meet my mother at my village home. On an average, I spend 2 or 3 months with my mother each year, but I talk to her over the phone almost twice a day. Notice, in this section, you have also covered the bullet point how often you see her, which was in the cue card. The next heading was the opinion heading. The reasons why I admire her are endless. She is caring, tender, she has got a big heart, and she possesses a great love for everyone. She had been an ideal mother to raise 3 kids and making sure our education and moral values. She had made a lot of sacrifices all of her life and had never complained about anything to my best knowledge. She is the person who reminds me the power of love and caring. In this section, you've just stated why you admire your mother. And the last section is the future. Nevertheless, I realize that she is getting old by the day. I hope I'll be able to look after her in her old age, as she did when I was a kid. So that was the end of the structure you can use for the part 2 of the speaking test. That being said, the best way to score well in an IELTS exam is to practice. Practice as much as you can. Practice with a strategy and using a structure.